So let me first jump into the configuration once again. So from a put away behavior perspective for pallet storage behavior. Okay. So we go into goods receipt process, and within goods receipt process, we go into strategies. And then within over here, we go to put away rules, and within put away rules, we go inside first pallet storage behavior. Now, pallet storage behavior is something that we have discussed is where we are trying to, within a particular row in a rack, we want to define how many handling units can go inside that particular row. Okay, so it depends on the bin sectioning that you will be doing. So if you want the system to automatically create the bin sections for one particular storage bin, then that is the flexibility that EWM provides us. Now, if we go inside this configuration, what we will see. So earlier for this particular warehouse, the configuration was not there. So I have maintained the configuration for this particular storage type 0070. And then the handling units over here, if you see, are the maximum number of handling units that can go in for this particular bin sectioning perspective is 5. And this is the one which you see over here as P001 is the storage bin type. Okay. So for this particular combination, these are the maximum number of handling units that can go in. And this is the positioning of the stacks. So like this, the system gives you 99 positions that you can fill up. So SAP, from a standard perspective, says that you can create 99 subsections of one single storage bin. Okay. So as many sections as you want, you need to maintain the number of handling units over here, and obviously, and then based on that, you need to maintain the numbers over here as well, what you see as position, POS. Okay. So once you have done that, also, now if you want to maintain it as per your handling unit type, okay, and the storage type and the bin type combination, so you are allowed to do that as well over here. So the handling unit type is what? It's basically your packaging material type or different pallet sizes. So as we are aware that there are different like Euro pallets, like country specific pallets are there. Then dimension specific pallets are there. So all these different types of pallets you can define as HU types. It need not necessarily be a pallet. It might be a box. It might be a carton. Any sort of packaging material which you want to define as a handling unit type, and then you can do the configuration and the mapping over here. Okay. So once you do that, what happens is that now we remember we had done it for the storage type and bin storage bin combination P001. Okay. So if I will quickly show you, we go to the EWM monitor and we go inside storage bin. So the storage type is 0070, right? And the storage bin type is P001. So let us see what are if the system has automatically generated the bin sections as well or not. So you can see I've just created one storage bin A010101, and the system has automatically generated 5 sections for this, right? So 1, 2, so A0101-1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So these are the subsections for the same storage bin. So basically what it signifies, this is within the same area in the rack, but we are classifying that we can store 5 handling units over here. Now, if we want to store the 6th handling unit, the system will stop us from doing it. It will throw an error. Okay. So 1 handling unit per bin section. Okay. And also make sure that whenever you are defining the storage type, the put away rule should be empty bin. Okay. So you go inside define definition of storage type. So you can see the put away rule, which is maintained is 5, which is basically empty bin. So every time the system will try to search for an empty bin while it is trying to do the put. So this is what we have in terms of pallet storage behavior. Okay. So I would request if you guys get some time, so just try to create data or use the data which is available for the warehouse 1710, create an inbound delivery, and try to do the put away in that particular pallet storage type. See whether that particular storage type already is a part of any put away strategy or not. If not, you create a strategy. Okay, so to create the strategy, you need to do the mapping over here and assign that put away control indicator, that pallet storage put away control indicator, to the material master in EWM. Okay, it's very simple. So you use these configurations which are there. We have already discussed them in detail. So you use them, create the configuration, and then you map it to the product, EWM product master, and then you create a inbound delivery. Once you create the inbound delivery, when you go to warehouse task creation, the system should automatically create the task for that particular storage type. But make sure that that storage type is a part of a sequence over here. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, there is time provided in the curriculum where we will be doing different kinds of, we'll be performing these tests, and we will utilize that time to show you that as well. So if you guys don't get time, since you're already involved in projects, we will utilize those time as well in the sessions to create this data. But the configuration which was not there, I have maintained the configuration, and as I have shown you, the bin section is also getting automatically created. I have not created those sections. Automatically, the system has created the sections based on the configuration setup that has been maintained. Okay. Just when you are creating, make sure when you're creating the storage bin, you select the right storage type and the bin type, which you have mapped in the configuration for the pallet storage behavior. Now, if you see over here in this diagram, what is not taken into consideration is the yard part. So we are only talking of the trucks already coming into the warehouse and then finally reaching the goods receipt zone where the truck will be unloaded in this particular inbound scenario. Now, when we talk about yard management, so let us create a new diagram quickly. So the first place that a truck, say for example, it is coming in, this is a full truck which is coming in and it is arriving at the main gate. So the first thing that will happen is that the security, which is there at the main gate, will come and check the papers of the truck. Now, when I say papers, what papers does it comprise of? It comprises of the shipment documents. Now, this shipment documents will have all the details relevant for that particular purchase order, which was being pushed in from our side. Now, this is an inbound scenario, so let's assume that it's a purchase order from an external vendor. So it will contain the purchase order details and everything. And if the advanced shipping notification or the inbound delivery is already created, so that document number will also be reflected within the shipment document, right? So in that case, the security will come and check the documents and see whether these are valid documents or not. So in certain projects I have seen, the security will have a system in front of them at the gate itself with limited SAP access, and they will enter the shipment number. Now, in cases where they are using EWM yard management, they will simply just use the SAP SCWM TU transaction. So in EWM, there is a transaction. Let me show you. So this is the transaction. So the security will have access to this particular transaction. Okay. Today the system is a bit slow. I'm not so sure why. There might be so anyone from ZaranTech, if you're there, if you're listening to my voice, kindly check with the server team. The server is a bit slow today. Okay, there's no issue with my internet connection, so kindly check with your respective server team why the server is a bit slow today. Anyway, so this is the transaction SCWMTU, and over here you can see you have the option of entering the transportation unit. So this transportation unit is nothing but your shipment number. Generally, if we are transferring the shipment and creating a transportation unit, in that case, we just need to enter the shipment number over here. So in certain projects I have seen, the security personnel will have access to this transaction. So they will be entering the shipment number and then doing all the validation. Apart from that, one important thing also that needs to be checked is the driver credentials. The driver credential means the license number, whether it's a valid license or not. That means whether it's a commercial license and whether that license is valid enough for the driver to be driving that size of a truck, right? So we are all aware that our licenses as well, our driving licenses that we carry, say for example, for an individual, it's called a light motor vehicle license, LMV license, right? In India, it's like that. So light motor vehicle comprises of generally four-wheelers and two-wheelers up to 500 cc. But in India, nobody is that strict. So even if you buy a Harley Davidson of 1.5 liter engine, so you will be still riding it with a LMV license. But in general, the limit is actually up to 500 cc. Okay. So similarly, whenever we are riding a commercial vehicle, or say for example a truck, so we will have to qualify, and our license has to be, it has to have the right category. So all these things will be checked. Now, another important thing is also the condition of the truck will be checked, whether it is in a status that it can be allowed to come inside and it will not break down. So all those things will be checked. I've seen in certain projects, they will be also checking the headlight, the wiper, windscreen washer, all those details as well. Now, don't ask me why they are checking that. So it is up to, it's again company policy to company policy. For every client, it will be different. Now, once the truck is allowed to go inside the main gate, so it will move in. And now what will happen is that based on the, again, layout of the plant and the warehouse. Now, in large plants, what will happen? There will be a huge area over here. Okay, so this particular area, say for example, is called the parking yard, or in general, in short terms, the yard. So the truck will come here and it will be parked in this yard. So these yard, in short, again, from an EWM perspective, the yard will be defined as a storage type. The yard will be defined as a storage type, and suppose all these are different parking areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So like this, all these will be different. These one blocks that you would see, these are spaces for the trucks to park their, for the drivers to park their trucks. So these also will be defined as bins in the system, storage bins. So they are called the yard bins. Okay. So the storage type, as I mentioned, has to be defined as a yard storage type. And the bins that you will create will be yard storage bins within the yard storage type. So that means once the security allows and checks all the documents, everything is good, the truck will come in and will park somewhere over here. Okay. Now, the next important thing is the truck to finally reach the undocking or the docking location, and then do the unloading activities would start. So generally, you will be defining that area over here. Say, for example, now this is the door. Okay. And this is the GR zone. So finally, what will happen? The truck will move from here and it will reach here. Okay. Now, all these movements for the trucks from the main gate to the yard and finally to the door. Now, this is, as I mentioned, we are just taking an example of an inbound scenario. These movements will be controlled through yard movements. It will be controlled through yard movements. Why is it called yard movements? Because all these different areas will be defined within the yard perimeters. All this entire area does not come under the warehouse directly, because you are not storing any goods over here, right? So this is just where the truck is making a movement from here to there. So in this kind of scenario, it is called a yard management. You are managing from the main gate which particular storage bin the truck will do the parking, and from there which particular door. So as I mentioned, in the warehouse, it will not be just one single door. So it will be multiple doors, right? So like this, say for example. So what will happen in this case is which door is available for the truck to be unloaded. So all this planning you can do as well, right? So through the yard management functionality in EWM, okay? Because as I mentioned, the entire plant premises will be defined as storage types and storage bins. No, but these storage types and storage bins are not for just your goods storage. This parking area will also be defined as storage bins. Okay. So generally what happens is that, so SAP EWM, this particular functionality, or even if you are using ECC shipments, you will see there is something called as shipment check-in process, right? So say for example, if we go to create a shipment, so in this server, no one has created ever a shipment. So that's why this is the first. So every time it will not take so much of time. Okay. So over here, if you see, so there over here, the shipment has got different stages, right? Planning, check-in, loading start, loading end, shipment completion, shipment start, and shipment end. So these are the different stages of the shipment. Okay. Now, when you are using EWM, the different stages of the shipment, apart from the planning and check-in part, again, I repeat, apart from the planning and check-in part, in a scenario where the shipment is created first and it is being sent to EWM. As I mentioned, majority of the clients that you will be working in will be in cases where you are creating the shipment in ECC or in S4, and then from there onwards, it will be pushed to EWM, and in EWM, it will be created as a transportation unit. But there will be clients also where the shipment is created from the information which is being sent from EWM. And in those cases, these legs will be updated in one shot. It will not be updated in different stages. That means in real time. That means if I start loading, it will be activated over here. No, it will not happen like this. Why? Because that shipment will be created only once you complete everything, do the goods issue in EWM. At that point in time, the message will come to ECC and then create the shipment. Okay. So what happens in these two scenarios is when you have the shipment created in ECC, shipment creation in ECC goes to EWM. Okay. And in EWM, a TU is created. So the TU stands for transportation unit. I'll be using the abbreviation TU. Okay. So in this particular case, the actual stages of the shipment will be updated based on the actual physical activities that we will be performing on the truck. Say, for example, now if you go to this transaction, you can see over here, there is a loading action over here. There is an unloading action over here as well. So if you see the statuses, then you can see these are the different statuses. If I click on start loading, unloading, say for example, then over here in the shipment, the loading start status will get activated. Now for inbound shipments and outbound shipments, the ECC status is still loading start and loading in. So don't get confused by that. It's not unloading start and unloading in ECC if it's inbound shipments. It's not like that. That is standard SAP architecture. So I don't know why they have not changed it, but that is how it is in ECC or S4. But in EWM, you have got clear bifurcations, loading and unloading. So suppose in this case, if I have started doing the unloading over here. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? This particular stage will get activated, and the time of execution will also get updated over here. Once I finish the unloading process, then again the loading N time and status will get updated over here. But the planning and the check-in part is triggered from ECC shipment. In which case, in the case of where you're creating the shipment in ECC and in EWM, the DU is created from the ECC shipment. Now, also, you will come across clients where they are using third-party systems for their yard management overall perspective. Okay. Now, third-party systems, I have seen and I've worked in those kind of projects as well. So there are different kinds of tools in the market available for transportation planning, which clients prefer because the user interface is much more easier, and also it is the integration points are there with SAP, and it has got lesser maintenance cost as compared to SAP. So therefore, clients go for those kind of transportation execution tools. Okay. Now, if you say, for example, there is a company called Transporian. So if you check in Google, you can find it out. There's a company called Transporian, and they have got integration plugins for SAP as well. And there you can do the transportation planning. We will be talking about that part as well. The appointment planning. Okay, so we'll cover that part as well. And then you can also do the entire check-in process, everything through that particular software. Okay. Now what happens is that once the truck comes in over here, so if they are not using SAP, say for example, for this particular part, this area, okay, if they are not using SAP, so what will happen is that, so this third-party interface, there will be an application where the driver will just scan the documents, and then in the back end, there will be a verification which will be triggered. Okay, this verification obviously will happen in SAP only. Okay, say for example, the shipment number is scanned, the inbound delivery is scanned. So that verification again will trigger a service which will call the backend either ECC, or if it's an embedded system, the S4 system only. Okay. Now what will happen is that once the driver checks in, well, how does the driver check in? The driver in certain projects I have seen, the interface will be such that you just go and there's a kiosk. Okay. Especially if you go to any European warehouse, you will see that these kind of driver self check-in kiosks will be there. Okay, so you will just go enter your driver. You have to select the language first, because in Europe you've got different languages coming. We might have a truck coming in from Poland to France, so the driver would be only speaking in Polish. So you need to select the language first, enter all your driver details, license details, everything, blah blah blah. And once you check in, then what happens is that the shipment check-in in ECC is triggered over here. So there will be a check-in button over here which will get triggered. Okay, so this is how you will get to see, I mean, this is how the driver will check in. So once the driver checks in the third-party tool, over here the shipment check-in is also triggered. So once the shipment check-in triggers, so what happens is that once the transportation, sorry, the shipment is created, even if the planning is activated over here, the shipment is now communicated to EWM through an IDOC, and the EWM transportation unit is created. Now that means the shipment information is available in EWM as well as a transportation unit. But the EWM transportation unit will be in a status of planning. Let us see whether they have got transportation units over here as well. They should have. Okay. So if you see over here, there is just one transportation unit which has been created. So the activity state over here, which is showing over here, is 1. So whenever the transportation unit initially lands, it will be under a plan status. Okay, it will be under a plan status. So I can reverse this. Completed vehicle or door activity already exists. So I have to reverse those activities as well, and then I can reverse the this particular transportation unit. So you can see the door activity. If you can see at the item level, this is the header level of the transportation unit, and this is the item level of the transportation unit. There is an assigned door over here. Okay, so from a door perspective, if it is assigned over here and the status of all the activities are complete against the door, so therefore that means I cannot reverse the truck status. So generally, when the truck comes in, I will show you today, once the setup is completed, we'll go through the configuration as well. So once the setup is completed, if the TU comes in successfully, it will be in a plan status. The activity state number will be 0 over here if it is in plan status. So that plan status is in sync with the planning status over here in the shipment in ECC. Once the shipment is checked in, now when the check-in will happen, either someone at the security will click this manually, or it will be triggered through the third-party tool, as I mentioned. Once the driver has provided all the details, all the check-in details have been provided, then this check-in information, this checkbox will be activated. This in turn will create another IDOC, which will come and make this status from 0 to 1. That means from planned, it will change the status to active of the transportation unit in EWM. Okay. So now till then, the communication is from ECC to EWM for the TU. After that, for all the other legs, it is from EWM to ECC. Okay, only planning and check-in will be coming in from ECC to EWM. The rest of the statuses will be coming in from loading start, loading and shipment completion. All these things will be coming in from EWM to ECC. Now, in cases where the shipment itself is created based on the transportation unit you have created in EWM, that other way also the model is possible. Okay, so in that case, what we need to do, we need to then create a all this information, all these different legs that you see will come in one IDOC straight cut. It is not going to be in every stage that it is going to come in update. Okay, it is just one simple IDOC. Now, if you want to change that communication, you're free to do that, but you need to make the changes in the bodies which are provided by SAP. Okay, so you need to write your own Z conditions, and based on that, you can trigger new IDOC messages. That is also possible, but then you need to use bodies, and then you need to write your own enhanced logic within that particular body. But the standard interface works in one single IDOC, updating everything. From if it is coming from EWM and the shipment is created from EWM. Okay. So now, what we need to see is also there is something from a transportation planning perspective which EWM provides as an additional feature, and that is called dock and appointment scheduling. Okay, so this is an advanced feature, dock and appointment scheduling. It is a very wide topic in its own, but we will see how much we can cover within your curriculum. Okay. Now, why this is important, the dock and appointment scheduling part. So the dock and appointment scheduling part is something which is an end-to-end solution, if you ask me, provided by SAP, right, for the vendors. Now, who are the vendors in this particular case? It will be the carrying and forwarding agents. So the carrying and forwarding agents are nothing but your transporters. Okay, the transporters are the people who will be managing the trucks which will be provided for the end-to-end service from inbound perspective and outbound perspective. Certain organizations have their own logistic companies. Even in India, there are clients I have worked in where even the transporters are their own companies, subsidiary companies. Okay, but most of the organizations you would see, they will be outsourcing it to a carrying and forwarding agent. So this carrying and forwarding agent, if we are using the dock and appointment scheduling functionality, they will be having access to certain applications. So the dock and appointment scheduling functionality can be used through two primary means. A, through the SAP NetWeaver functionality. So have you guys used the SAP NetWeaver platform earlier for any of your existing projects or modules? Did you get a chance to work on SAP NetWeaver?
No.
Okay, so let me quickly show you how the interface looks like. I'm not sure whether this user ID has got all the required roles. So because there are particular roles that are required, especially to use the dock-in appointment scheduling functionality. Okay, so I can see there are shipping specific roles which are assigned over here. If you see shipping specialist, but there are warehouse specific roles also offered over here. Let's see whether if we have the dock-in appointment scheduling functionality over here. I don't see the dock-in appointment scheduling specific roles over here. So this is how the NWBC interface looks like. So you have all the options of the standard Fury applications which are there and the transactions which are there. You can carry on all those activities from here as well. Okay, same thing you can do it from using the NetWeaver business client platform as well. Okay, so let me see dock-in appointment scheduling. Okay, so under dock-in appointment scheduling, if you see appointment management is being shown over here. Okay, so that is there, and within shipping and receiving, but there are other things as well. So those will populate once I assign the dock-in appointment scheduling specific roles to the user ID which I have been assigned to. Okay, so those roles need to be assigned. Those are standard roles. I will share those roles with you. If you guys want to explore those roles need to be mapped to your user IDs, even when you are doing it for on your client side. If you want to set up dock-in appointment scheduling, remember that those roles are required. Otherwise, the Fury applications as well as the NetWeaver applications over here will not populate. Okay. So the dock-in appointment scheduling functionality, what exactly it is? So the transporter will get a visibility. What are the different docks which are available on a particular date? So he can plan and send his trucks accordingly. Okay, so in large businesses, generally your docks will always be filled. So every day on an average, you will have a movement of 1,500 trucks to even sometimes 2,000. It depends on how much volume you're taking in, both in terms of inbound or outbound. So obviously, based on the number of trucks which are coming in, you have to maintain the slots. Slots for what? The docks. So for each dock, you need to maintain slots. That means you also need to maintain the timing. That means on an average, you need to take out a particular truck for unloading requires how much amount of time. So these are all master data that needs to be set in the system. Okay. So for example, a particular truck takes 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour. So based on that, you need to maintain the slots. Okay. Now, whenever the transporter is logging in to the particular application for dock-in appointment scheduling, so the transporter can see the available slots for that particular day and then do the planning accordingly and fix the slot, book the slot. So it's called booking of the slot. So once the transporter books the slot, the appointment number is being provided to the transporter. So once the slot is booked, an appointment number is being provided to the transporter, and the transporter will come to the main gate, provide the appointment number, and based on the appointment number, now the main gate person will be sending him to the respective yard, and from there he will be asked to go to the respective dock, the one to which he had been assigned to, or for the one for which he has done the appointment. So just imagine what level of planning is going into this. So you are managing, even at the vendor level, there is visibility. What are the available docks for the upcoming days as well? So you can, from the vendor perspective as well, you can do so much amount of planning for your truck movements. Okay. So dock-in appointment scheduling helps you to achieve that. So you can see over here, just the appointment management part is coming over here. So within the appointment management, you have the planning part, processing part, and the reporting part, right? So over here, you can see within the planning part is creation of appointment, maintenance of appointment, and all these parts are there. But from a dock-in appointment scheduling perspective as well, there is a certain amount of master data which needs to be maintained. So you see over here, from a dock-in appointment scheduling perspective, from a master data perspective, you have creation of docking location, maintenance of docking location, creation of loading point, maintenance of loading point. Now, all these things, as I mentioned, is available in NetWeaver. All these things are also available in Fiori application. So from a standard perspective, you have got options to use whenever you want to use document appointment scheduling. From standard perspective, it is not on your SAP GUI interface. Remember that. Okay, it is not on your SAP GUI interface. You have to use NWBC or NetWeaver, or you have to use the Fiori application. Now, if you want to use the GUI, that can also be achieved. I have worked on those kind of projects as well, where we have done the additional node addition in the EWM monitor. Okay, so in the EWM monitor over here, what can be done? I will show you. So over here, there can be an additional node which will be for dock-in appointment scheduling. So you see all these different outbound, inbound, physical inventory, blah blah blah. So over here, instead of that, you can also create an additional node which will have the dock-in appointment scheduling functionalities as well. So from here also, because the EWM monitor is used extensively by the warehouse users, supervisors, so they can have a view of the entire current view of the trucks which are there in the docking stations. Okay, so all those things can also be viewed. But this is again something, dock-in appointment scheduling, as I mentioned, is an advanced functionality. And most of the companies I have seen, because they already have, so what happens is that when clients are going for, S4 HANA implementation, or they are going for, migrating from WM to EWM, say for example, but they generally don't change the transportation part also in one shot. So already they would have a different tool to maintain their transportation planning, all this docking, appointment scheduling, all those things are also available in the third-party tool. So they would not like to change it in one shot. Some of the organizations who go for big bang, project transformations, in those kind of projects where you are doing implementations of multi-modules, yes, that can also be achieved. But generally nowadays, organizations, to avoid risk, and especially I have seen in EWM projects, they do it in a phased manner. Okay, so they will do it phase by phase. So what they will do is they will say that first, let's go with the basic EWM yard management of taking in shipments through and converting them into transportation units, or vice versa, creating transportation units and then creating the shipments. Once we have that flow, we see that it is working fine, perfectly. Then in phase 2, we will release dock-in appointment scheduling. Okay, so this is from my experience, whatever little experience I have, that is what we approach the client generally use. They just don't go for a bang on, change everything. I am changing from WM to EWM, or migrating from a different legacy system, Oracle, to SAP EWM, and also I'm going to change the appointment tool as well, my transportation appointment planning tool as well. They generally don't take that kind of a risk. Okay, so this is basically a risk-averse approach, and that is what clients generally go for. Okay, so this yard management part that we see comprises of 2 sets of configuration and master data maintenance that we need to perform. So one set of configuration we need to do from an ECC standpoint, and the other set of configuration needs to happen in the EWM system. Okay, so although this is the same environment, the embedded system, but even if you guys are using a decentralized system, the same approach or the same sets of configuration needs to be used. There is a standard document, because the flow of configuration, some of the things that we will be doing are one-time setup. Remember that. And I'll mention that. Some of the things are one-time setup. Some of the things you need to do it every time you create a new warehouse. Okay, but generally it is just, most of the configuration is one-time setup when it comes to this, because we'll be setting up the IDOC parameters, we'll be setting up the partner profile. So these things you don't need to do every time you are creating a warehouse. Okay, so this is just a one-time activity that needs to be done for every system, which is a fresh system that you are configuring. Okay. But then again, the thing is, you should be aware about it. In certain organizations, again, say for example, setting up of the IDOC parameters and all, although you need to provide the input of what exactly are the outbound parameters, the inbound parameters that need to be maintained within a particular message type for the IDOC structure, but that mapping, that configuration will not be allowed to be performed by the functional consultants, because there will be a basis team, and there will be, if the roles and SAP governance is being implemented, then those particular activities will be strictly performed by the basis consultants. Okay, but in cases where that is not there and everyone is allowed to do everything, so in those cases, definitely you will get the opportunity to do even the setup of the partner profiles and everything. Okay, so from a configuration perspective, we'll go one by one. There is a standard document which is available. So earlier it was available on Google for free. So it's called EDTRA integration with EWM. So similarly, this document also I will share with you. We'll go through the configuration because it's a huge amount of configuration. One by one, we need to go through it, and we need to make sure that we are not missing anything. So that's why I would recommend, whenever you guys are going through this configuration, make sure that you are going through it step by step. Okay. And you can also use the recording that I'm going to use right now, because certain things are not required to be done by EWM. Because in that document, it will be mentioned about route maintenance, shipping condition maintenance, shipping point maintenance. So those things will be taken care by the SD team or the LE team. You don't have to do all those things. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. The only thing that we will be performing is the EWM specific configuration, and that starts from defining the number range in ECC, right? So there are certain number ranges that are already defined in the system, and certain number ranges that we need to define from ECC perspective, because we'll be using it to define, and we'll be assigning it to the shipment types that we will be using to create the TU in EWM. Okay, so we will start off from the number ranges in ERP. Okay, so for that you need to go into logistics execution, and you can use the same flow which I'm using today whenever you guys are setting it up in a fresh system. So as I'll be setting it up in this system, you guys don't need to perform this activity. I've already done 50 to 60% of the configuration. So you will just go through, we will just go through the config step by step. But the ones which have not yet been done, we will be performing it. I'll be performing it in front of you guys today. And then you don't have to do it in this server, but in your sandbox system, if you want to practice, you can do that. There's no harm in that. Okay. But don't change the configuration which I'll be performing, because that will make sure that you guys can do the testing. Okay. Otherwise, if you delete that, then, and if anything goes wrong with the config setup, then again it will not work. So within logistics execution, now this is the standard SPRO screen. So directly you don't go inside the EWM configuration, go into the logistics execution node, and within that you go into transportation. Okay, so within transportation you go into shipments, and then over here define number range for shipments. Now if you know the number range object, you just go to SNRO and just push in this number range object, and then you can do your maintenance. Okay, so over here, that document, the standard document which I was mentioning about, will ask you to maintain two number ranges. Okay, so this is 03 and 04. I have maintained it. So this is as per the number range that is being mentioned in the document. I have done the same thing. I've just copied and pasted it. But if you have a specific number range that you want to maintain for your shipments, you're free to do that as well. There's no harm in doing that. Okay. It's up to you how you want to maintain the number ranges. So you must be noticing that for 03, it is internal, and for 04, it is external. So can someone just quickly tell me why we have got two number ranges for shipments, internal and external? So what happens is that if you see, this one is internal. So this is for the shipment which will be created in ECC, and it will go into EWM. And then this one is for the shipment which will come in from EWM, which will be created from EWM, because it will have the same number. So that's why it's an external number range. So that is why we've got both internal as well as external number ranges over here. So after that, the next step is to define the shipment types. So for that, we go to the same config. So logistics execution, transportation, shipments, then define shipment types. Okay. So over here, I have already defined these two shipment types, ZERP and ZEWM. Okay. So if we go inside, we would see the document will mention of maintenance of internal number range assignment. So this is the shipment type which we will use when we are sending the shipment from ECC to EWM. Okay, so the number range assignment is 03. There is no numbering assignment for external number range assignment. The rest of the things will be as it is as maintained over here. For the route, adopt route. So you need to select the drop down. Do not adopt stages over here. And for the legs, determination of legs, no legs to be determined for the route. Okay. So these are the two options that need to be selected, because generally what happens when you are coming inside this configuration in a fresh system, this ZERP, ZEWM will not be there. These two shipment types that you see, I have done the configuration. Even in this system, it was not there. Okay, so only 0001 was there. So what you need to do, you need to select 0001. So that will be there as a standard shipment type, and then from there onwards, just change the shipment type naming convention. Let this one be their description. If you want to have some other description, you can put it so that it can be an identifier. And from there onwards, you just maintain the adopt route and then determine legs. So these are the two things. So within this, you can see the adopt route is different. It is adoption of at all stages, and the legs also are getting determined. So we don't want these two things to happen. So this needs to be selected as do not adopt stages. And for the legs, it has to be no legs to be determined. Okay. So these are the things that you need to do. So these two are two different shipment types, ZERP and ZEWM, which need to be created. The next thing that needs to be done is transportation relevance for the delivery types. Okay. So for this, again, the transportation relevance, if you see maintain transportation relevance over here within the same configuration node. So this has already been mapped for all the relevant delivery types. So if you want it for, say, for example, inbound delivery goods movement as well, you can do the activation relevant for transport. So this one was not there. So you can maintain all these as well, DOG. So you can see for the standard outbound delivery type, LF in ECC, it is relevant for transport. This has been maintained. So like this, you can see delivery without reference, return to customer. So there are certain document types for which it has been maintained. Certain document types, it has not been maintained. So it's up to you for what kind of scenario you want to use the shipment document. And based on that, you can just activate this relevant for transport configuration. Now, the next step is creation of a transportation planning point, okay, or a TPP in short form. So for the transportation planning point, again, you need to go to the same configuration. No, you don't need to go to the same configuration. Now, since this is definition, so you need to go inside enterprise structure and then definition, and within here logistics execution, and over here maintain transportation planning point. Okay. So over here, what you need to maintain the transportation planning point is ZDEL, deletion of EWM to ERP, and the company code that you should map to is 0001. Okay, so this you can maintain it over here, and then already there is a transportation planning point for 1700 mapped to the company code 1710 for the warehouse that we are generally using, and for this is the plan that we are using. So we can use this one as well, but this is the transportation planning point which the system will determine automatically when the shipment will come in from EWM. Okay. Now, another important thing is the maintenance of the packaging material type. So remember that although this is the truck is not actually a packaging material type, but we need to define, I mean, physically it's not a packaging material, right? The truck, the container is not a packaging material, but we need to define it in the system as a means of transport. And this means of transport is a packaging material type basically. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to go to handling unit management. So this handling unit management, in the document, it will be mentioned as go to SPRO and then handling unit management. That is there in the older versions or of ECC, not in the S4 version. So in the S4 version, where is it? It is within the logistics general tab. Okay. So within the logistics general tab, you will go inside handling unit management, and within handling unit management, you go to basics and then define packaging material types. Okay. So if you see over here, packaging material types for shipping. So this the document will ask you to maintain the packaging material type, means of transport. So you see over here, this is the packaging material type which has been maintained. Okay. So I maintained it as transportation unit. Okay. So plant is entered manually in the handling unit plant determination. So this is what you need to check. The packaging material category is means of transport. So generally it depends. So if you see VERP, so that is also packaging material type. If you remember, whenever we are doing any sort of packing in our warehouse, sorry, we are using these ones, right? So YN01. So these are just determined as in the category itself, it is determined as a packaging material. Okay, so the packaging material type is YN01, right? So similarly, for this one, you need to create this MTR2. And then over here, the number range assignment needs to be HU underscore VEKP. Okay, the number range interval needs to be HU underscore VEKP. Handling unit type, you can maintain it as unknown. There's no problem about that. And the internal number range is 01 and the external number range is 02 for this. Okay. So later, if we are able to create the test data today, if not, we will do the create the shipment tomorrow. So in that case, you will see the moment I create a shipment, I will also be creating a handling unit for the means of transport. Okay. So once you define this, now from the packaging material perspective, it is important that the material is also being maintained with this particular packaging material type. Okay. So for that, what you can do is for this particular material, and this particular plant, you can see the packaging material data. The packaging material type is already maintained, MTR2, and the same is also reflected in the EWM product master. So if you go to EWM now, SEWM Mat1, and you enter this material in the packaging data, within the packaging material type, it is MTR2, which is automatically getting populated over here. Okay. So this is something which needs to be maintained. So in case you are creating a new material, so what happens is that in projects, obviously just not one kind of truck will come, right, in the warehouse or in the plant. There will be trucks coming of different sizes. So what I have seen from my experience is that you will be defining them as different materials. Okay. And you will be assigning the packaging material types. So if you have got multiple packaging material types that you have defined, then you can do that. If there is a three-wheeler, say for example, coming in India, you will in Indian warehouses you will see that a lot. That there are the three-wheeler tempos coming in, right? So they also are considered as a means of transport. They are not like proper trucks. Then you've got the Tata Ace Travelers, which are also being used for moving goods from one place to another. Then you've got the proper trucks. Then you've got trucks having containers, different sizes of different metric tons. So accordingly, you can define those packaging materials and you can assign packaging material types as well. Okay, so for our example, I've just defined one, but whenever you are practicing or if you're working in clients, if you're working on a support project, you will already see all these things being predefined. If you're working on a rollout, so based on the or an implementation, so based on the requirement of the client, as per the different trucks which are coming in, you can do the mapping in the system accordingly. Okay, but it needs to be maintained. The correct material master maintenance is required, and also the packaging material type needs to be correctly maintained over there. Okay, so once that is being done, so again within the document you can ignore the creation of customer master and all those things. So those we can use existing customers. So that thing is again something which will not be done by the EWM consultants. Again, it will be done by the consultants from the SD side or from the LE side. Okay. Now coming to the output type. So this is something which is very important because this is something which is going to trigger the message, which will in turn create the IDOC, which in turn will create that IDOC will get processed to EWM, and that in turn will create the shipment, or sorry, the transportation unit in EWM through this IDOC, right? So this particular set of configuration is very important, right? So we go back to customizing, logistics execution, and then transportation, then basic transportation functions, output control, maintain output determination for shipments, and then maintain output types. So over here, the document will ask you to copy an existing output type, which is SEDI. So I've already done that, and I've created this output type ZEWM. Okay. So within this, if you go inside, so within the default values, you need to make sure that the partner function is selected as LS. So if you're going into a new system, doing a new implementation or a rollout, so these things you need to either provide the info to the basis team, or you need to do it yourself. Okay, so the output type generally will still be done by us. Okay, so what we can see over here, whenever we are copying SEDI, SEDI, so the partner function is CR. Okay, so we need to change that partner function to LS over here. And at the same time also, if you double click on partner functions, so you need over here also the function will be CR by default. So this needs to be changed to logical system as well, or LS. Okay, this particular entry. So make sure on both the fields, the changes are done to LS, from CR to LS. And then you need to save your entry. So in our case, already we have done it from the output type ZEWM perspective. Okay. We need to see what is the output determination procedure which has been assigned to this one, right? So if you see over here, there is a, within this maintain output determination for shipments, we have got this node assign output determination procedure. So we go inside over here, and you see for the shipment type ZERP, we have maintained ZEWM over here. So once that is being done, so what we need to do is create a condition record, right? So to create the condition record, so we just go to the transaction VV71 for condition record creation, VV72 for change, and VV73 for the display. Okay, so I've gone to VV71 instead of that. Let me go to 73. So there is just one key combination. If you want to keep it on based on something else, ship to party, customer, based on all those setup also you can maintain. Okay, so you can check it is working as per the other condition. It's a simple condition technique that is being used to determine the output. It is standard for other modules also. The way it works, this over here also is the same concept. Okay, so you can maintain your additional access sequences if you want to maintain additional fields, and based on that, you can set up your conditions over here. Okay, so over here for this particular output type ZEWM. So these are the conditions. So the shipment type should be ZERP, and this is the partner, and this is the medium. So the medium is 6. So the medium, well, let's see what is 6. 6 is EDI. So that means an IDOC will be triggered once this particular output type is being generated. Okay. So once this condition type is being maintained, so what we need to do is we need to now go into the communication setup. Okay. So what happens from a communication setup perspective is there are 3 different kinds of message types that you will see that are being maintained. Okay. So let me go to the transaction first. So if you see over here, what we have done is, so from a document perspective, the document will ask you to maintain, go to WE20 transaction. So in WE20, so this logical system is there, which is our EWM logical system, right? So there are 2 logical systems. One is the logical system for the S4 system. One is the logical system for the EWM system. So the EWM logical system over here, if you see, is being maintained over here. So I have done this maintenance. Then you need to maintain the partner type. Within the partner type, you then need to maintain the user type over here under post-processing valid processors US. The agent will be your user ID. Okay, so in this server, you don't need to do this activity again. You can just go through the config. Okay, I've already maintained this. But then again, in your upcoming projects or your existing projects, if they have a new rollout or there is a new implementation, so you need to maintain all this. Again, as I mentioned, these are controls which basis might not give it to us. So they will ask us for the inputs. We just need to provide the inputs, and then basis will maintain it on our behalf. Or they will ask us for the message types that need to be maintained. So when you go inside this configuration, don't be confused. So over here, even if you're in the change mode, everything is in a grayed out mode. Okay. So you just need to click. So first you need to add this outbound parameter. So this outbound parameter is basically this is the message which will trigger the IDOC. So this message type contains the segments which is basically having the information for the transportation unit to be created in EWM. Now, if you click on this plus button, create outbound parameter. So generally, whenever you're creating a new profile, so it will be looking like this on the screen. Okay. And you suppose maintained, you select the logical system over here. I cannot do it because I've already done it. Right. So the system will show an error, but you need to select the EWM logical system over here, put in the user and the agent. And then once you do that, you need to select the, one second, just let me cancel this. And then you select the plus node over here, create outbound parameter. And over here in the message type, you need to enter the message type that needs to be configured, right? So over here, the message type is important, and then the receiver port is important, okay? Now in cases where it's a decentralized system, so there will be 2 ports. Again, this port creation is not our job. It will be created by the business team. But if it's a centralized system, there'll be just one port, which will be created. So I have used this existing port, which has been already created. Okay. So once you are assigning the port, you also need to select the basic type over here. So all these details, what you need to select as basic type and everything has been provided to you in the document. Okay. So you can just go through it and do the maintenance accordingly. Okay. So for example, over here, if you see for this one, the message type is SHPMNT. Okay. And then over here, the receiver port is this. This is the basic type. And then the output mode is pass IDOC immediately. So this is also something which you need to ensure that when you are setting this up, the output mode should be that this particular radio button should be selected. Now, in terms of the partner profiles, okay. So the partner profile is something which also needs to be created. So if you have not created the partner profile, then the system will not let you maintain the logical system over here. Okay, so the partner profile is something which is important, which needs to be maintained. So from a partner profile maintenance perspective, so you just go to tools over here, then ALE administration, and then runtime, and then partner profiles. So this is where we are creating. So it's the same thing. So it's the so what we have done over here from an EWM perspective, we have created this partner profile. So if you don't maintain this partner profile, the system is not going to understand that this particular message needs to be sent where. So that's why that this is very important. Okay. So once you have done this maintenance, so apart from that, similarly, you also need to maintain this other message types. Okay. So if you see, this is outbound and these are inbound. Okay. So this message type SHIPPL is for the receiving of all the change updates from coming in from EWM. So the change updates are what? Are nothing but this loading start, loading end, shipment completion, shipment start, all these different statuses, right? So these will be flowing in from EWM to ECC. So it will only happen if you do the mapping of this particular message type over here. Okay, but it has to be maintained within inbound parameters. Remember that. Again, same way. You just click over here on the plus node, and then you can activate. You can maintain it over here, just like the way we maintain condition types. If you manually need to maintain when condition records in a sales order, so for pricing conditions, so same way we need to do this activity. Okay. So once we are done with this, we also need to make sure that the other one, SHPMNT, this particular message type is also being maintained. Now this is for what? This is for the IDOCs, which will be created coming in from the EWM system. Okay. Now there are certain standard programs that can be set for the automatic re-triggering of the IDOCs or failed IDOCs. So that variant, so that program also you can set. So this is something that needs to be done whenever you are doing an implementation. So obviously, then this is by default for all the warehouses which will be under that particular client. So the program is RBDMANI. Okay. So this particular program needs to be maintained. Okay. So RBDMANI2. So this is the program which needs to be maintained, and you can actually set this program for a batch job variant. Okay. The frequency and everything depends on how you want to execute the batch job. So what are the details within the program, what needs to be maintained? So all those things are mentioned in the document. Okay. Now, I am not going to maintain anything in this program right now for this server. So if you guys want to test it, I will leave it up to you. Okay, for the maintenance of the background job. Okay. Now, this is what we need to do from the ECC perspective. Okay. So this particular sets of configuration that we saw, this is everything in ECC. Now we'll move to the EWM part. So in EWM part, in the document, you can ignore the document types mapping to ECC document types mapping to EWM document types and all those things. So those are already done and covered. So we don't have to do it every time that we are setting up the transportation shipment and the transportation unit or the vice versa setup. So that is a one-time setup that is immaterial. So that is not linked to this. Okay. So you can ignore that part in the document. Then the route part. So the route part, if you want to use, you can do the mapping. If you don't want to use, that is also fine. Okay, so it's up to you whether the route visibility the client requires from an EWM system perspective. If they want that, then that is required. Otherwise, it is not required. Okay. So then the next thing is that in EWM as well, we have the packaging material type definition. Okay. So let us quickly check that. So we go to SPRO. Now this is something which needs to be done. Over here in this server, I have already maintained it. So you guys don't have to do it again. Okay. But if you want to have, as I mentioned, a different packaging material type for a different kind of transportation unit, you're free to do that as well. There's no harm. Okay. So within cross-process settings in EWM, we go to handling units and then basics and then define packaging material types for warehousing. So over here you see this is the packaging material MTR2 that has been maintained, because this is the same packaging material type which has been maintained for our packaging material, right? So that EWM S4 truck that we have maintained for that particular material is the same packaging material type which has been maintained. Okay. So next is the configuration of the means of transport. So what we need to do is we need to go into other set of configuration, which is on the SCM basis, master data, and yes, master data for decentralized. So although this says master data for decentralized EWM, from a transportation lane perspective, still this needs to be maintained. Okay, so don't get confused with the over here this particular naming nomenclature. Okay, so please don't get confused by that. Still this needs to be done. Okay, even for an embedded system. So maintain means of transport over here. So over here you can see the MTR2 has been maintained. Okay. After that, just go back again within cross-process settings. You have shipping and receiving, and then general settings. And within general settings, you will have defined control parameters for forming vehicles or transportation units. Okay. So over here, what you need to do is go inside. And let me just go inside over here. So you see this means of transport once it comes in. And this means of transport, we have assigned it to a packaging material type. So whenever this comes in, the system will automatically generate a transportation unit. Okay. So currently I have just done the mapping of the TU. So the same thing also needs to be mapped for the vehicle. Okay, so the transportation unit and the vehicle are two separate things. So if you want to create the vehicle as well, so you just select this, okay, and this one select as vehicle instead of transportation unit. Number range will remain the same, and the action profile, this will be VEH. Okay. Now this packaging material and the means of transport that we have defined, this needs to be linked. Okay. So for that, there is a transaction. I don't remember PM_MPR. Let me just see if I remember the T code. Otherwise, we will get it from here. PM. Yeah. So this is the T code PM_MTR. So I'll just push it in for you guys. Okay. So this transaction is required wherein we are mapping the means of transport to the packaging material. Okay. So over here, you can see the means of transport which is mapped to our packaging material is 0001. So we are not going to use that. So what I will do, I will just create new entries, and then the means of transport, I think, is MTR2 for us. Yes. And So make sure that if this particular mapping is not done in terms of the master data. Now, this is a master data. This is not a configuration. This needs to be performed in each and every environment. That means in development, quality, reproduction, production. Okay. So this will be a part of your cutover list. This particular maintenance of transaction will be a part of your cutover list. If this is not maintained, the transportation unit will not be generated. So please remember that. Okay. Apart from that, okay, I'm just trying to see how many storage types have been defined for doors, and then we will see how many bins are there for this door. So we've got these many door bins. So this, yes, so we've got these doors assigned to dispatch. So that's fine. So you've got 3 doors for inbound, 3 doors for outbound. And if you see B over here, that means it's for both for inbound and outbound. Another important thing for the shipment to be updated from EWM to ECC with the different statuses that I was mentioning, like loading, start loading in, and all those things. So in EWM, we don't have this concept of output type getting triggered. I mean, determination of the output type through the condition technique. So in EWM, we use post-processing framework action profiles. Okay. So for every process, there are different action profiles which are there. And within the action profile, there is a definition. Okay. So those need to be in an active state, and only then the message will go and update the shipment in ECC. Otherwise, it will not update. Okay. So let's see that. So we go to Pro again. Okay, so we go inside EWM, cross-process settings, shipping and receiving, then message processing, define action profiles for transportation units. Then we've got action profiles for vehicles as well. Okay, so if we go inside action profiles for transportation units, so we've got this. Okay, so within this, let's see the action definition. So we've got all these different action definitions. So the most important thing that should be activated is this one. Okay, SR underscore send underscore shipment and SHIPPL send message to ERPTU deleted. So these are the 2 messages which need to be activated. Currently they are inactive. So what we will do, we will just activate them. Okay. So this done and this done. Okay. Now I will just save this. Although the system will say SAP entry, don't change it. You can ignore that message. It's just a warning message. Okay, so you can ignore that. Don't worry about it. Then there are other action definitions as well, but right now we'll not be activating them. Okay, as and when it is required, we'll activate them. So this is in terms of TU, the TU action profile. Now, similarly, within the vehicle action profile, so you can go inside action definition, and over here, the one which you need to check out is SHIPPL underscore VEH. Okay, so just remove this and then activate this. This data is saved. Perfect. So once you have done that, also we need to check the communication setup from an EDI perspective from EWM. right? So again, so this is an embedded system. So in embedded systems, as I said, that is not required, right? So, but uh, in the in the decentralized environment, you need to do this separately in both the systems. The activity which we have done in WE20 transaction, so that same activity needs to be performed over here. Okay. Okay. So for the scenario where we'll be creating the shipment from EWM, so for that scenario, we'll be setting up an additional thing from the if you see over here, so the ALE sync is there. So within this particular distribution model, we will be setting up certain other additional things. So it's not currently set up now. So in tomorrow's session, we will see that setup and we will create that. Okay, so we'll set up a new distribution model for the shipment to be generated from EWM into ECC. So what we have for this one, okay, so we don't have, so from a partner profile perspective, again, so this is the receiver port. Again, we need to create an outbound parameter over here. Okay, so the message type should be SHPMNT. Okay, and for the receiver port, we will use the same port because it's a one unique system. Okay, and the basic type over here, transfer IDOC immediately, is the option, the radio button that we should select, and the basic type over here is SHPMNT06. So let us check that. This is the one. Okay. So the system automatically will take the package size of 1 over here. So that means one IDOC will be created. So that is the package size. And then I will just save it. Okay. So this is in terms of the outbound section. And then again, in terms of the outbound, within the outbound options, let me show you this again. Okay. So over here, so you can see this, we have created one of these, and then the other one is for SHI PPL, right? So we will maintain this as well. So we've already maintained one for SHPMNT. Now the next one that we will maintain is for SHI PPL message type. So then the receiver port, the same receiver port. And over here, the basic type within the IDOC type should be PP SSHD01. Again, this is something that I mentioned, I'm repeating it. Not something which is expected to be done from our side, but if basis team reaches out to us, we should be able to provide them this values. Okay. So next is again from the inbound parameter perspective, we have to provide the SHPMNT over here, and then the process code which is used is /SEWM/SHPM. So don't worry if you're thinking from where am I getting these values. All these values, everything is provided in the document, in the standard document. Okay.